Hi, I'm Robin from CookingMexicanRecipes.com, and today I am making a special treat called churros. Now maybe you've had churros before, maybe at Costco or at a fair. Today I'm going to show you how you can make these at home. So before we get started, I want to go over with you just a little bit about some of the tools that we're going to use for this recipe. Now we're going to start with the frying pan. Since most people don't have a deep fryer in their home, we're going to be using a frying pan to cook our churros. So I have a cast iron pan here. I'm going to hold this up for you. And I've got a stainless steel pan. Now the main difference between the two is the way the sides are sloped. So the stainless steel pan has more of a flared out angle here, whereas the cast iron pan is more vertical. So the reason why that's important is because when you have a pan filled with oil, and we're going to have about 2 inches of oil here, when you're turning your churros over, you tend to create some waves. Now the oil is more likely to flow out of the stainless steel pan with that wide angle as opposed to the cast iron pan, which has a more vertical side. So you'll keep your oil in the pan. So we don't want to be spilling our oil all over and maybe even starting a fire. So we want to avoid that. So our next tool that we're going to need for this recipe is basically a cake decorator. This comes in handy because we're going to pack our dough into this and then push it out into the oil and cut it off. And you want to use the widest tip that you can find. So this one here is a nice wide star tip. That way it'll give your dough some nice ridges that are typical with churros. Okay, so for our ingredients, we're going to need 1 cup of water. We've got 2 tablespoons of light brown sugar. Over here I've got half a teaspoon of salt. I have 1/3 of a cup of butter. Now use the real stuff here. I've got 1 cup of flour set aside here. And in this bowl here, I've got a mixture of 2 eggs and half a teaspoon of real vanilla extract. And then in our platter here, we're going to use this later to coat our churros in. This is 1/4 cup of sugar mixed with 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Okay, to start off our recipe, I'm going to preheat my oil. Now your oil needs to be somewhere between 350 to 375 degrees in order to cook these. These are like donuts. So we got to get our oil hot enough so that the churros don't just absorb it but actually brown it. So I'm going to turn on my flame and I'm going to add my oil. Now I'm going to use vegetable oil for this. So I'm going to pour this in and I'm going to get it about a couple inches thick or deep because the churros need to float in the oil. Otherwise they won't cook right. So it's going to take a fair amount of oil to get these to float. While we're waiting for our oil to heat up in the pan, I'm going to start adding my ingredients to this other pan. So we're going to start with our cup of water, the brown sugar, the butter, and the salt, and we're going to heat this to a boil. And once that's all mixed in, then we'll add our flour. So let's start this up. I have it over medium-high heat. So here we go, we're melting our mixture, and we're gonna get it a nice boil, and then we'll turn off the heat. Okay, so you can see here where the butter has melted, and we want to get this up to a nice boil. We're almost there. Okay, you can see the boiling now. I'm going to shut off the heat. Okay, so now I'm going to add the flour, and I'm going to stir it in. Mix this up really well. So now we're going to add our flour and the vanilla extract mixture. Stir that in, and we're just going to have to mix this in until it's completely incorporated into the dough. Okay, so now you can see that the egg is fully incorporated into the dough, and we're ready to put it into our cake decorator. So now we're going to load up our cake decorator, and this part's a little challenging because you got to get the dough inside the tube. I'm just going to do a little bit at a time. Okay, so just keep doing that until your applicator is full. All right, so I've got my applicator full of dough, and I'm going to put the lid on. Now we need to check our oil to make sure that it's hot enough to cook these. Now if you have a candy thermometer, you can try this, stick it in, and remember I mentioned that we need to get it up to at least 350, 375. The other way we can do this is we can just shoot a little bit of dough in there and see. That's usually what I like to do. Why fool around with thermometers? Okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. I'm just going to take a little bit of the dough because I don't want to waste it. Okay. I would say that that's not quite hot enough. I need a little more bubble. It kind of sunk and then it came back up. So I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit. We are going to launch our first churro. Here we go. So I just kind of just dropped it in there like that. It floats to the top. My oil looks like it's pretty good in terms of temperature. I'm going to shoot another one in there and just wipe it. I just disengage it there with my finger and let it float. Now these are going to cook about a couple minutes, I guess, and then I'll try and flip them over. That one was a little long. You can do whatever you want. You make all kinds of shapes. I'm going to start with those three. And you can use, I've got some tongs here, or you can use a slotted spoon. And they're just going to float around. And like I said, you want to keep your oil hot enough. And I may adjust mine up and down as we go because it might cool off as I'm adding more dough. I think I'll turn this one over. You can see the nice ridges there with the star applicator. It makes them look really nice. And they just cook, a couple of minutes each side, and then you just flip them over. You don't want your oil to get too hot or too smoky because then they'll burn. But what we want is a nice crispy outside and a nice moist interior. All right, so this one here looks like it's done. Has a nice golden brown exterior. And flip this one over. Just turn them over gently so you don't get oil outside of your pan. And you can set them right down there on the paper towel covered tray that I have set aside. As soon as these cool just a little bit, not too much, I want to dip them in that nice sugar and cinnamon mixture so that it'll stick to the churro. So now we're going to take our churro and roll it, and it's still nice and hot. We're going to roll it in the sugar like this to kind of coat it. So you're going to want to make these and roll them pretty quickly. I wouldn't make a whole bunch and then try and coat them because I don't think the sugar is going to stick. So cook a batch, maybe 3 or 4 at a time, and then let it cool briefly, and then stick it right in the cinnamon mixture, because this is what really makes it great. So here are our churros. I've just finished making the whole batch, and I made out of that batch we probably got 2 dozen 4-inch churros, approximately. And I really enjoyed making these. They were a blast. I really enjoyed putting them in the oil. I really hope you'll try these. They're a lot of fun and they taste fantastic. So stop by my website for more recipes at cookingmexicanrecipes.com, and be sure and subscribe to my channel here at YouTube, and that way you can keep up on my latest videos. Thanks again for stopping by.